Janet Treadway is the Ashta Project Business Administrator and Electronic Payment Delivery Management Lead in the Division of Construction Management. She has 17 years of experience with ODOT, working in the areas of highway maintenance, public information, and the last 12 years in construction. She's administered the implementation of multiple construction management systems, from document management to overall project administration and management systems. She is managing the department's implementation of Ashta project construction and materials and estimation in conjunction with the upgrade to the current version of pre-construction and civil rights and labor. I didn't know that. She is the vice chair of Ashta Project Task Force, overseeing the development of new software, enhancement, and maintenance of the Ashta project suite of projects or products. She is tasked with the Ohio Department of Transportation's e-construction initiative, which they are recognizing as an overall project delivery and management change. In her role, she is working on the collaboration between the Division of IT and Construction Management to completely outfit every construction employee with mobile devices and technology to complete required tasks as a department standard and to meet the project administration requirements with or without connectivity. Welcome, Janet.
Good morning. I will let you know now that if I talk too fast, raise your hand or whatever. Usually when I have to give a presentation regarding this topic, I'm given 20 minutes and they go faster, go faster, go faster. This is my passion, so I could talk about it for hours. I don't want to bore you. But I do want to let you know that a lot of things that I heard yesterday make this better. They make the fact that we're all working together. Looking at technology for the construction field is a new concept. They've used pencil, paper, tape measure, whatever the case may be, for years. So when we started taking away those tools, they were very nervous. We worked with IT. We said these were the requirements that they had to have. You guys listened, which was great. But it was also one where we didn't say we had to have this one set type of tool. So we have some inspectors that are using iPads, some that are using Android tablets, and some that are using the 360s. Along with their state phones, they're getting a lot more done, and the return on investment has been the fact that we hear more about what's being installed or placed because they're using talk-to-text functions, or the fact that they can drop and drag information in than we ever did before. So the construction administration technology that we're looking at is the record sharing, retention, our project administration all the way through the life cycle of a project, mobile applications that we can use, and involving our externals basically so we have that single point of contact. There's now going to be more transparency in when they did something. It's not going to be, I sent it in, it should be there, why, I don't know why it's not there. Now we'll be able to see they uploaded it or they entered the information with their ID and the same time frame. The Division of Construction Management started this process back in 2013. When I came from District 6, our construction department had been using SharePoint as how we retained our documents prior to the shared drives. A lot of it was because multiple people could get to those folders rather quickly. When I came down to central office, there was an initiative underway. They wanted to find an enterprise-wide document retention center. It's 2019, that still hasn't happened yet. So one of the things was that we recognized that SharePoint could still work for everybody. It didn't matter if you were internal, external, whatever the case may be. But telling those people that they wouldn't have paper anymore, or the fact that if they were creating a Word document to email to somebody, they could just file it. They didn't have to print it. They could just put it in that shared file, and everybody could have access to it. One of the things that did do, because we brought in the Division of Finance at the time, was the fact that we were recognizing when we were sending change orders that some districts were printing 3 copies of the change order, mailing all 3, telling the contractor, you keep one as your original, I'll keep one as my original, and I'll send an original down to central office. Well, now you have 3 originals. That doesn't happen. Now, what they were looking at was the fact that they had the wet signature. But there was never basically authentication as to who was signing it. Were they truly the person of record that we had on file that could make the change order modification for that contract? We received a document in prior to the project starting at the pre-con that says these individuals can sign a project change order. Well, now that we have electronic access, only those people are given credit to get into the system. They have to use Duo, they have to have their ID valid, and they have to continuously get into the system so we know who they are. It's brought or shed light on a lot of the times where someone will call in our office and say, I can't get to the change order to make an approval. They'll tell Tia what their name is, and she's like, you don't have access. You shouldn't be making these changes, you know, all of these things. So we're trying to make sure that we're following our own contract specs as well. And the fact that whereas the company might have been fine with the administrative assistant or someone else reviewing the change order, they didn't have the authority to approve it. When it got to finance and they were seeing those wet signatures, and what they were doing is they were unstapling the change order and then scanning it in and then filing the paper copy and then filing or keeping the scanned copy as well on a shared drive. So when we told them that we could do all of it in SharePoint and keep the signatures in Site Manager, they recognized that they were spending, one person was spending 40 hours a week. If you took everybody together, it was one full-time employee, 40 hours a week, decompiling change orders, scanning, refiling, and restapling to put to where they need to be. And just by doing that, we were able to reduce the paper cost and the full-time employee cost, and they could do something else for their agency. The other thing that we've identified was that with the Division of Opportunity, Diversity, and Inclusion, they could start using these folders as well. We didn't have to keep separate shared drives, so all of the project documentation could be maintained in one location. So this has been the record of retention since April of 2014. We started it in October of 2013. There was a lot of hesitation. Some of the districts were like, let the other district first, see how it goes. But now we finally have everybody on board. That includes all of our externals. So one of the things that we recognized is that the fact of, while we're doing our document sharing, and we want to do more of the cradle to grave type of information, we've been working with CAD and mapping and engineering to look at project-wise. Because then we could take the mapping of the 3D models and the plans and everything else within that application, utilize Bluebeam for markup, but then go ahead and keep that within the project-wise folder structure. A lot of times when people were seeing their hesitation for SharePoint was the fact that it looked different, right? So if you opened it in Explorer view, it looked like their own file share, and they were okay with it at that point. So we recognized that the comfort level was what they were most frustrated with. ProjectWise can give you that folder structure to where it looks like it does your shared drive again. So we're hoping that they maintain that comfort level of utilizing it. One of the things it also gives us is the fact that the documents, all the way from design to as-built, will then be in project for that PID, and then we can have access for the agency as a whole. If you want to know out in maintenance what was done, you could see the information for that area by that PID, by that county, however you needed to look it up. The expectation of us moving there, though, has been a while. It's been a little bit slower transition than most, but we're hoping that when we go with our Ashta project implementation next year, that we'll basically be moving people at the same time. What we're trying to do is basically package it as a bundle of, we're going to start transitioning you to use Ashta project for the administrative tool, of how your project goes along, but then also puts you in project-wise, for that's where your document retention will be as the project proceeds as well. So the Ashtaware Project Suite. We've been using Ashtaware Project. We use Site Manager. That's just the client server-based on-premises application. We've used that since 2008. We have pre-construction and civil rights and labor already. That's the web-based version of it. But what we're doing now is bringing in construction materials, estimation, and data analytics. What that'll do is bring in this entire unified database so that all of our mobile apps that we use with it as well will start talking to the application and then providing data all the way through the life cycle of a project. We started with pre-construction and civil rights and labor in 2012, and we are going to ready to upgrade them at the same time when we upgrade and implement estimation and construction and materials. The construction materials portion, though, because it is after the stages of estimation, pre-construction, we will be doing that in a staged approach. So we can bring them up to version 4.2 and keep them going within that version. While when we start bringing people on, we will also join in 4.2, but it's basically turning us on at that level, bringing in a district at a time. If you were around when we did the implementation for Site Manager from CMS, we did a lot of dual entry, which was painful. We did a lot of project conversions where, while I appreciate the dedication for making sure our financials are, at an exact match, we couldn't convert projects unless we were within 6 cents for what the project was at and what the project was going to be. And Site Manager had a completely different rounding funding stipulations that we had to work around. So we will only be transitioning certain projects into Ashtaware Project, and there'll be a group of people that will basically shore up or convert that job from Site Manager into construction and materials. So we won't have dual projects for a district. However, multiple systems will be worked. So if we start with District 1 and transition them, all the other districts would still be using 2 systems. We're hoping to have the entire implementation done within 12 months. We'd like to have it done sooner so we can shut Site Manager off, but it's going to take a while, and depending upon what large projects that we have on when we can actually start getting them over. So Site Manager that we use now, one of the applications, and the fact that we've been utilizing this technology for a while now, it works offline. That's why I was saying we get a lot more of the information of how it was installed. MobileInspector will not care if the project is in Site Manager or if the project is in AWP. So the inspector's really not going to need to know which application it's in day to day. They can go ahead, they can still utilize MobileInspector, and it will route to the correct application for them once they lock it. With the implementation of Ashtaware Project Construction Materials, as you can see, that's an extremely long name for the product, so we just call it AWP. So when we go to AWP, MobileInspector, like I said, will continue to work, but we're going to be able to bring on Mobile Tester. Mobile Tester will allow the individual to complete the actual tests on the project site. It'll also let our test labs do plant sampling and quarry sampling as well. And then it'll just sync right up into the application for approvals. With the upgrade of AWP for the CRL site, they'll be able to use the Field Interviewer app. That's all the wage interviews that we have to do currently. That there's the CCOs within each district. There's 1, maybe 2 within your district. There's not enough to go around, so they're asking that the actual inspectors out in the field help with this function. So the Field Interviewer app will do exactly what the CCOs need, but when they lock it, it'll go to their CRL system for them. In addition to those applications that I brought on for MobileInspector, Tester, and Interviewer, we also use GoForms for our risk-based inspection process, SWIPTRAC for the environmental review, and documentation, and NRG, which was basically found in District 5, and from what I've seen, it grew, and once people started seeing how they could see the different plan levels, an actual map out of their project on the road itself, it started to be utilized statewide. So MobileInspector, when you guys see this or ask, someone comes in and says, I have MobileInspector installed now on my device. Basically, there's this 8-digit alpha character code that we attach to their user ID, so no one else can use it. That's why it's very hard if it's on a shared device. We don't have that happen to where it goes to one user, it's their digital signature compared to anybody else. It'll do their daily progress reporting, which includes their item postings, so the items that are placed on the work, their site conditions, contractor, if they're identifying their labor, which then ties to the civil rights side for their payrolls, and then photos. Where I have photos with the asterisks is the fact that photos could be taken now, however, Site Manager doesn't accept them. Ashta project will. So they can take the photos and send them as an attachment within the application. Mobile Tester is going to go ahead and allow the user to log their samples, and it'll go right to the appropriate lab. So if it's something that has to go directly to OMM downtown, then it'll go ahead and do that. If it goes to their district, it takes care of that. If it tells them that they have to do certain functions out on the project first, they can do that and enter their test results. It'll also capture the location of where they're at, which MobileInspector does as well when you lock the device or lock the diary. They can add photos. They can go through and place multiple photos for the actual product as it's being tested. And they can quickly verify the quality of work that was being placed. The other thing that they'll be able to do with Field Interviewer is basically they're going to be able to do that summary of findings. They'll do that interview with someone out in the field based on the employees that were listed within that contract to work for that contractor so that it goes to the CRL site. There's a lot of things that they have to do, and the CCO can't get out to every single project on a weekly basis to do these interviews. So we are going to start training the inspectors on how to do that. GoForms is an app that'll work online and offline as the same as the other apps will, but this is also one that this is where Ohio is completely different. Over the last couple years, we've taken a step in inspecting the quality of the work. When we've worked before, the item postings are basically the quantity. What was installed, how many widgets, that type of thing. This inspects the quality of work based on the attributes within the spec for that particular item. It'll also do smart functions so that if I say I'm inspecting this particular attribute of that job, it'll tell me what's required to respond to. Do I have to attach a photo? Do I have to put a comment in? Do I have to check another spec? And if they don't do that, it will not allow the inspector to save the document for it to go up to the SharePoint site. It'll also work offline, which has been a godsend in some of the districts for all of these apps to do that, because the fact that they can download everything that they need in the morning, either at the field office or the county garage, and then go out and work all day in their truck, do everything that they needed to do, come back in, sync them up, and then they're done. This will automatically, one of the things we worked with Alex, so I really appreciate that, was APIs that will file these for them. So if I say that a document or the quality of work meets all of the conformance, and I hit complete, it'll go to that project SharePoint site, it'll go to that line item specifically, and it'll file it for the inspector. They don't have to do anything. There's no more paper captured. If something doesn't meet compliance, it'll go to a separate folder and it'll alert the project engineer something is wrong on your job, corrective action needs to be taken. We can also complete what's called a commercial useful function form for ODOT, and then it'll file for them in their folder on SharePoint as well. One of the ways that we've been able to do this is through the Citrix Workspace. So I thank you guys for all the work and all the hassles you have to go through or with working with me. But one of the things has been, we wanted the single source, that one-stop shop, because we have consultants and contractors that work day-to-day with us in the field. They have contractors and consultants that work on behalf of ODOT. And I learned very quickly that my term for contractor and consultant is completely different than the IT world of contractor and consultant. And trying to say, well, I need this function to happen, and someone look at me like I was crazy because of the term I was using. So once I started to learn and share with you our terms for those specific people or what they would do, it was a lot easier to get access for them. So we now have Site Manager, Ashta Project, the portal, so they can get to their reports. One of the things that I presented at Conaway was the fact that this was going to take place immediately after the presentation, because my expectation was this was only going to work for our externals. So they had one place to go. They didn't have to worry about going to multiple clicks within the system. As soon as the internal district people were at the presentation and saw it, there was an immediate want. I want to have my HT, who might work out in the county garage, 9 months out of the year, and then I get him. I want him to have that one-stop shop. I don't want to have to keep training him, go to this site, go to that site, whatever the case may be. Okay, that was a request for ECT. Now I need it internal as well. Helped us in the fact that they can go and get spec books, they can get their manual procedures, they can get anything that they need, even access to our materials management site itself to go through and view things in a one-stop shop location. For our externals, it's doing what I need for contract association of, do they have the appropriate authority? Are they duo to get into the site? And then after that, they can do what they need to. I can capture all the things I need for signatures. The other things that are coming are the fact that while we use these technologies, that mobile technology is going to only continue. We are going to look at the fact that when we're using 3D plans, it's going to take a while to get there, but we are going to start doing that. What that's going to do is then produce more of the inspection based on what layer of inspection I'm doing. So I could remove or only see my roadway layer and then inspect to that level, provide that data back, and then close it. The fact is that while we're doing all of these things and looking at the fact that a lot of the inspectors, we have been able to non-perform field offices, means that they're going in working out of a truck. There's several of them that drive to a project with no connectivity, and they're all working out of a truck. We're using the funds where we've non-performed a field office for more projects in the capital program. So it's just adding more and more work. The other thing is the fact that we're tying these technologies and providing them to our externals. So like I said, you have that one point of entry. So if our contractors are saying they're doing this, this, and this, they are the ones who entered it. It's not our staff having to do dual entry of, they provided me a piece of paper, now I'm going to type it in. So we're hoping that it reduces the resources that we need as well, and they can do more work for the product, our project itself, rather than enter somebody else's information. While we're doing the upload over the next year or so, I will say that there'll be a lot of communications coming out, but that one-stop shop, that Citrix Workspace, is where we're going to keep the majority of the information. We are working with our vendor, which is Infotech for Ashta, to create training videos. So if I need to know how do I enter a daily work report, there'll be a video for just that task. So we're going to keep a resource library of training videos there. We'll keep quick guides there. It'll be their one-stop shop as well, and I'm hoping it'll be an access point for the IT departments within the districts to know if someone calls in and says, how do I do this? You can either direct them there or to walk through each of these processes themselves, or you'll be able to see it independently. So, any questions? Great. All right, well, thank you very much.